Should JuJu Lewis just start at Colorado? That's the way I see it. Kevin Borba of Locked On Buffs is here. Do you see it that way, Kevin? I look at Kaidon Salter, and he's capable. If you want to start him for a couple games, let JuJu learn a couple things, sure, that's fine. But is this a quarterback battle? Is this Salter's job? I just don't look at Kaidon Salter as someone who's going to take this year's Colorado team and push them to a Big 12 championship game. So therefore, play the long game if you're Deion Sanders.
Yeah, that's a risky move, right? I think everyone's instant mindset is to go, he's a 5-star. He didn't go to Colorado to sit the bench. And let me tell you, history doesn't always say that, right? Trevor Lawrence didn't start right away. Bryce Young didn't start right away. He sat behind a guy named McCorkle, right? McCorkle Jones started over Bryce Young. Arch Manning at Texas.
Mac Jones, for those of you who don't remember that.
Yeah. Right, back up to Brock Purdy now for the 49ers. Arch Manning didn't start right away. Quinn Ewers didn't start right away, right? There's a lot of instances of blue chippers, 5-star guys not starting right away and being okay, right? Then we got Dylan Raiola, who burst onto the scene a little bit last year, and then he fizzled. And it was rough because it's like, okay, do you bench your 5-star freshman and absolutely kill his confidence? Or like, what do you do? So I think you ride with Kaidon Salter. You have to change your offense up entirely because you don't have Shedeur. Kaidon Salter is one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in college football. I think you're hoping if you're Colorado, you get that 2023 version of him, the Conference USA guy, or Conference USA MVP guy, who could do a little bit of everything. And I wouldn't want to ride with Julian right out of the way or right out of the gate, because if it doesn't work out, then you just killed his confidence, right? I think it's better for everyone involved. You ride with the veteran. If he does well, perfect, then Julian can learn from him. If he doesn't do well, then Julian sat behind him, learned from his mistakes, and can hop into the lineup if needed.
So I hear you on that front, Kevin, but if you're Nebraska, which is a great example, would they go back in time and not start Dylan Raiola because he struggled the second half of the season? Or do you think they benefit not just in that season, but also this upcoming season because he played the whole year and led them to a bowl game? I mean, the upside for JuJu Lewis, if he's able to get acclimated quickly, now they have an early non-conference battle with Georgia Tech. That's a potential ACC dark horse. Maybe you don't want to throw him into the fire for that particular game. I just wonder if they don't look at that situation or others like it and say, hey, yeah, you have a veteran that he can learn behind. I get that trajectory. I just think that without Shedeur and Travis Hunter, so much is changing for this Colorado team. I don't know what foundation realistically Kaidon Salter can establish that it would be worth taking playing time away from JuJu and therefore his development.
Yeah, there's a couple points I want to hit there, right? I like the question, would Nebraska like flip their script, right? Would they be like, you know what, now that if we looked into the future, saw he was going to struggle, lose however many straight, would we change it? I'd also like to point out Nebraska's backup quarterback now plays tight end. So there's a different level. There's a different level of like quarterback competition here, Colorado, Nebraska. So I get the sentiment, but I think it's a little different, right? Kaidon Salter, in theory, is one of the more proven quarterbacks in the portal, at least, right? I don't know if he's going to be 2023 or 2024 version of himself, but I think he has a higher ceiling than what Nebraska's backup was. That being said, Spencer, has Colorado's offensive line been good?
No.
Okay. Julian Lewis, he's 17 years old, right? We're going to hear a lot of he's 17. He should be a senior.
Did you know that Ryan Williams was 17 last year?
I didn't. I honestly.
Now you know, Kevin.
Right.
Now you know.
Could have taken a shot every game they said that. You probably would be blacked out by the end of the game.
You would have been in the hospital.
They're like, look at that 17-year-old over there, just standing there drinking water. But realistically, he should be a senior in high school next year. So it's like you don't want to rush him into that. Also, you don't want to rush him into a death trap if that offensive line isn't good. And Kaidon Salter, I made this point earlier, he's mobile AF, right? He's one of the best dual threats in the country. So if the offensive line isn't good, which they brought in 4 or 5 new guys again, shocker, and say 4 or 5 new guys don't mix well again, shocker. It could, though. I liked who they brought in, but I don't know if it's going to work. We thought they were going to work last year, and they didn't. I think Kaidon Salter is better suited to survive the circumstances. And I just don't like putting all the pressure and hopes on Julian Lewis, because it's like, for instance, let me ask you this question. Julian Lewis gets a starting job, right? And we'll just pretend for S&Gs he starts the whole year and they go 6-6. Like, what is the vibes around Julian Lewis? Are we getting bust talk? Are we getting like, this guy sucks? Like, what are we thinking?
If he steps in as a true freshman and goes 6-6, I'd look at him the same way I saw Raiola last year, which is, man, this guy is a mega talent, and going 6-6 as a true freshman is hard. I mean, you don't see a lot of true freshmen starting. Bryce Underwood, for goodness sake, probably won't start at Michigan. They'll probably go with Mikey Keene, the Fresno State transfer, who I think is fine. I just think that these two situations are kind of similar, where you're playing a veteran, and I understand why. Like, you make a lot of really good points. I understand why they go down that road. I just don't know what exactly you're playing for. You know, if you bring in a guy, and they're both going to have short leashes. I mean, it's going to be a short leash. And how often does that, when you don't have high ceiling veterans that are there? And I think Salter's ceiling is fine. I think Mikey Keene's ceiling is also fine. I don't think either one is leading you to a conference championship in the Big 10 or Big 12 respectively at the G5 rank. Sure, I don't think in those conferences. So when you don't have that high ceiling, that's where I wonder, should you just go with the young guy? Because you're probably going to, it's the Michael Penix and the Falcons situation. Like, wow, you brought in Kirk Cousins, but you drafted Penix. Well, how quickly is everyone going to call for Penix to start once Kirk Cousins struggles? Oh, look at that. Cousins didn't make the season. And now it just feels like you had this weird in-between wasted sort of year. And on the Nebraska point you made earlier, I did want to bring up one factor, which is I think Nebraska committed to starting Dylan Raiola, and that's why they didn't have a good backup plan. If they had wanted a plan like this, where you play a veteran until the young guy's ready, or you sit him for an entire year, whichever one you want to do, I think that they would have gone out and found a more serviceable backup who has a higher floor. Those guys were out there in the portal. I don't think Nebraska would have been lacking for the ability to find somebody like that. But I think that whole dynamic, it's all over the country this year, really. Yeah. Like, everywhere you look, every conference, there are a lot of schools where you go, do you play the young guy, or are you going with this guy? I mean, you've got quarterback questions at Alabama that I talked about on yesterday's show. You've got quarterback questions all over the ACC.
Ohio State, right?
Ohio State quarterback questions. Like, Oregon's not 100% locked into Dante Moore. They probably are, but that's not a guarantee. That has been formally announced. But, Borba, I want to get you out of here on this. Colorado's looking to, I don't know what this year. As I mentioned, I don't know what they're going to try to do. We'll just kind of see how it plays out. But for them to hit their ceiling, which transfer has to be at his absolute best?
Like, which transfer addition? Oh, gosh, that's a good question. Honestly, I think we go back to who we've been talking about this whole time. The easy answer is Kaidon Salter, right? I think you lose Shedeur Sanders, who people may not want to give him credit for whatever reason. I think we know the reason. Right, not you, but like other people's. And people won't give him the credit. Shedeur Sanders was working miracles behind those offensive lines, right? I don't know if they would have been able to block Spencer. Honestly, those offensive lines gave up. He was sacked 94 times in 2 years.
It's
right?
just it's unconscionable.
Like, I don't even know. I bet you there's quarterbacks in this draft who weren't sacked 90 times in their career.
By the way, Washington last year gave up the most sacks in the Big Ten, 39. Yeah, not even half of what Shedeur was sacked in 2 years.
He had a better offensive line, was sacked 40-something times. So not great, right? So I think you have to go Kaidon Salter. Big shoes to fill. In terms of a non-quarterback answer, I'm looking at Joseph Williams, and he's a name that's getting overlooked a lot right now, but he's their wide receiver one, or he should be their wide receiver one. Came in from Tulsa, was the American Freshman of the Year, Rookie of the Year, whatever they want to call that award. You lose Travis Hunter, who, granted, again, you're losing 2 players in one, but their corners are set. They're losing Travis Hunter, Will Shepard, Jimmy Horn, and LeJontay Wester. That's 4 NFL-ish caliber receivers, right? And so now you're turning to Amarion Miller, who has had like 2 great games, and he just disappears off the face of the earth after, which one of them he got hurt. Draylon Miller, who's a sophomore, redshirt freshman, depending on how much he played. And that's it, right? You have little to no experience. So Joseph Williams is kind of like the guy at wide receiver, where it's like, hey, we need you to be our guy. Otherwise, our offense does not have a guy at receiver. I'm sure other guys could step up, but I'm looking for him.